I'm happy to pass this off to Laura Ross and take it away. Thank you.
All right, so unfortunately for those of you in Zoom, I did bring a few extra plants to give away. So if you're here and you're interested, put your name in the little bucket up here. If you don't have a name tag, write it on a piece of paper and we'll draw it out at the end when we're done here. So one of the questions I always get is, what's the difference between a daylily and a lilium? And a lily is the short term or the short name for lilium. So these are daylilies right up here. And over in the corner is a lilium. And if you notice, the liliums, they're all bulbs. It's just a bulb, whereas your daylily is roots. It's just a plain old plant. Nothing fabulous, nothing spectacular about it, plain old plant. The upside of this plain old plant, it's hard to kill. You have to work at killing it. That's why it's a really good plant for novices. All right. Am I moving forward? Sorry.
Yes, I got. Let's see. What did you do to find the cursor? Or do I just need to press down? There we go. Now, no.
There we go.
Hit that there and go like this. And now just hit that.
Just hit that. All right. So again, just some pictures of daylilies and liliums. Daylily, daylily, lilium, lilium, and another lilium. And if you notice, the foliage with the daylilies are going to be more grass-like. The liliums are going to have different type of foliage. Some of them are going to be spirals, just different textures to it. Oh, and apparently I am just hitting the screen. There we go.
Just hit the square. Don't hit this arrow.
Right. Oh, the square. Yeah. All right. So where are they from? So daylilies and the liliums both originate from China, Eastern Russia, and Japan. So different type of climate, but it's familiar. At the moment, there's over 95,000 registered cultivars of daylilies, and there's a huge spectrum. And if you go back in time, because there's a daylily database, and it will have the name of the hybridizer, when they registered it, and then it should have a description of the daylily itself. And over time, you can see as they started to hybridize what they were aiming for. You'll see ones that they were aiming for certain reds, or they were aiming for eyes, or they aiming for color, or ruffles, or teeth. Chicken fat is some of our friends call it, which we'll get into. All right, come on.
Just tap the square.
That's what I did.
There you go.
There we go. So what do you need to have the daylilies to grow? Like I said, it's a great plant for a novice. You have to work at killing them. They need at least 6 hours of sunlight. They prefer well-drained soil. They'll tolerate some bogginess, but not all the time bogginess. Regular moisture, mulch, and their drought tolerance once they're established. And this is a key thing. Once they're established. I work at a nursery and people always say, well, it says it's drought tolerant. Well, did you water it all when we had a month of no rain? Well, no, because it's drought tolerant. Okay, when I go out for a walk or a run or a bike ride, I get thirsty. And I might be able to hold off for a little bit, but at some point in time, I need water. Plants are the same way. It doesn't matter how much moisture they do or don't require. At some point in time, they need water. So you just need to kind of baby them a little bit the first couple of years. All right. All right, so how do we plant the daylily correctly? We find a location with at least 6 hours of sunlight, and it doesn't care morning, afternoon, evening, all day. It's just happy. If the soil is heavy, so like our clay soil here, add a little bit of compost to the soil, get it started. It'll help with your drainage a little bit. Place your daylily in a hole with the crown level with the top of the soil. So, and people can come up later on. So this area right here, right between where the roots and the leaves are, this is the crown. And you want to have this even with the soil. And for those of you, I can't tell if you can tell in the back, there's a little bit of white. That's where it's been mulched. And that's okay. It's just like if you notice when you go out in the garden, you pull off the leaves in the spring, things seem a little pale. It just hasn't had any sunlight.
Can you show on the camera just? a
Oh,
little?
I'm sorry. So leaves, your crown is right here, and then obviously your roots. And then you're gonna backfill it and tamp it down. And then obviously, like any other plant, when you plant something, water it, no matter what the forecast says. So basic knowledge in terms, crown is the stem of the daylily plant. Solid white core. The crown produces the leaves and the scapes of the upper portion and the roots from the bottom. The scapes, so this is an old scape from last year. Scapes is what it's going to flower on, and it will have different buds that'll come out. With the daylily, they only bloom for one day, but they produce different buds. And so you should have at least maybe 2 or 3 blooms on an older plant in a day. And some plants will last 2 to 3 weeks for bloom time, depending. The older the plant is, the more it's going to bloom because it's obviously developed more. It's like people. When you're small, you're just not as energetic, or you're energetic, but you just don't have the endurance. And as you get older, you get more endurance and you can produce more until you get older, and then maybe you don't produce as much, and then it's time to divide. Hey, sorry. Okay. So, sorry, I dropped the fan. All right. So fan. So whenever you go somewhere to purchase a plant that's not a nursery, the fans are what we're talking about on the daylily. It's just a single division. Here's my poor little baby that died. So it's just one single division. It'll have a little bit of root, a little bit of crown. Most people, when you're buying them from a plant sale or a grower, they're going to sell them to you in double fans, and that's DBL. They'll indicate it DBL. The throat is the area in which the petals, sepals, and the stamen and pistil emerge and connect. Okay, and then for the abbreviations, when I first started trying to buy, I think I spent a day trying to figure out what the heck these terms were until my son came up to me and said, "So Mom, do you think maybe you should check the key on the website?" And I'm like, yeah, I probably should. So dormant is usually DOR. This is the foliage that's going to die back every winter. If you have semi-evergreen, the foliage will remain for most of the winter and die back when it gets extremely cold. And your evergreens, the foliage remains year-round if you're in a warmer climate. If you're here, what'll happen is it will try to stay green as long as possible. And then when we get that wicked cold, it's going to go brown. But in the spring, what'll happen is it will green up the first because it wants to go. It just wants to be green all the time. Okay, and then we have the abbreviations for the various bloom times. And remember, weather conditions determine your bloom time and where you're at. So here, my extra early would be end of May, beginning of June. If I'm somewhere in Florida or further south, it's going to be April, May timeframe. So we have extra early. Again, you see the time frame for our
somebody from there called you.
for our area.
Thank you anyway.
Early is early, mid-June timeframe. This is usually the peak season. This is when most of them are hybridized for. So from about middle of June to the middle of July, late July, and then you got your late, which is July, August, and then you got your very lates, which is something I'm trying to collect at the moment. So anywhere from mid-August to early October. I actually had a couple blooming in November last fall. And then RE is really important for me. It's a rebloomer. So it means it's going to bloom once. It may be a few weeks, and then it'll bloom again. You'll have some where it'll bloom once, and then it automatically throws up a new scape, and it starts blooming again within another week. So it all depends on the thing. And these are really important to know, just because you kind of want an idea of when you expect it's going to happen. And again, if we get the wacky weather, it kind of throws another hook into the, another hook into the loop. And then we have the different daylily sizes, and they're categorized by how large the bloom is itself. And then we have the different categories here. So we have miniatures, which is less than 3 inches. And as you can see, we got, this is Aruba Red in the picture with my hand. And then we have, I think that's Megatron, but I'm not 100% sure, which is an extra large, which is 7 inches. And you notice the difference between the two. And I've seen blooms that are all of 2 inches. So, tiny. So people collect them from different sizes. And then the foliage is anywhere between 18 inches to 30 inches, just depending on your growing conditions and what type of, which type. Your larger plants tend to have taller foliage. Okay. Daylily types are broken down into 6 forms and numerous subforms. So we're not going to go into all the subforms. But the official ones that we want to look at is single, which is what you mostly see around here. The doubles, which are a little bit harder. I like doubles, except for I'm picky about it. There's some doubles that are beautiful and some doubles that are, ooh, they're ugly. The unusual forms, if you come to my house, I have a lot of these. I love the unusual forms. I love the spiders, which is another category in itself. And we have the polymerous, which means that it has more than the normal 3 petals and 3 sepals. It'll have, 8, 9. I think there was one that I've seen that's had 10, and it looks really cool. Sculpted is another one. This is a more newer category per se, and it's more 3D like, so it's textured. It's really awesome. Again, those are the polys and the sculpted forms are a little bit harder to find. All right, so this is an example of the single form. 3 sepals, 1 pistil, 6 stamens. Just plain old daylily, nothing fabulous about it, just common, what you would find. The double form, so this is Voodoo Dancer. We actually have it out for Daylily Garden here by the pear trees. So it has extra petals. And like I said, you can notice, I like Voodoo Dancer because it's a beautiful double. It's not wonky, it doesn't look out of place. It just looks like it was there on purpose. One of my favorites, spiders. The daylilies, in which the length is at least 4 times the length or the width of the petal itself. And so when they do to measure this, so when the hybridizer goes to classify which type of daylily they have, they will measure this length right here. And they will also measure the width. One of the things that they do though is sometimes the length will curl, the petal will curl under. You don't force it long. You just kind of tenderly do it. If you ever go to somebody's garden and you start pulling on their petals or their sepals, they're going to get a little upset with you. Just saying. And then the other one too is for the hybridizers. If you go out, and this is one of the fun things, I went to a Lilium meeting convention a few years ago before COVID. And I've obviously gone to the daylily ones. If you go out and if you take pollen samples, you got to be careful, ask for permission, because somebody almost lost their mind when somebody did that in someone else's garden. They went to a botanical garden, and it was still funny because you saw these 2 guys, an older guy and a younger guy, and they got their little test tube and they're doing this and they're looking around like as if they were stealing something really priceless. And I was just like, what are they doing? And the lady's like, oh, they're just taking pollen. I was like, oh, okay. But like I said, so they're an interesting crowd to say the least. All right. Unusual forms. Again, I like these. It's based off its form, not the color, not the length or anything, or the patterns. There's usually a V shape in between the petals and the sepals. And it's very distinct, and there's different categories. And I believe I've got these. Yes, I do. The basic form. So we've got a crispate, which is where it's just pinched down at the end, as you can see on the sepals there, and the petals are just normal. And then we have cascade, which is the curly cues, is what I call them. They're really good. Obviously, your larger blooms are going to have cascades if it's unusual form. Usually, not always. They're starting to work on the miniatures that have this type of cascading going on. And then the spatulate, which is kind of self-evident. You narrows, and then it's just like a spatula. You got your handle up here, and then you got your end at the bottom, your spatula at the bottom. All right. Okay, and this is a polymerous form. Again, you can see it has extra petals and sepals. And then here's the sculpted. And like I said, the sculpted forms, some of them I really like, and some of them I have to think about. But you can see how it's just kind of raised up. There's one out there, there's a daylily out there that the sculpted form actually looks like a peony, which is amazing. It's like, oh my God, that's a peony, right? And the answer is, no, it's a daylily. Yeah, when I saw the picture, it's like, no, it's a daylily. And then we've got our colors and patterns, all kinds of choices. The petals and the sepals are all the same color. It's true through and through. You got your blends, which is a combination of a couple of colors. And this here is called chicken fat. I don't know if you can see the ruffles on the screen at home, but we call that chicken fat or teeth.
Why do they call it chicken fat?
It's because wait a minute, because somebody started out with chicken fat and it obviously caught, and that's where it came from. But the chicken fat, that's also known as teeth, and the toothy ones are actually pretty nice. But the problem is sometimes when they have those teeth on them, they're hard to open. So sometimes you'll see gardeners going out and, well, the hybridizers going out and opening their petals, and I'm like, that's too much work. if you can't open your bloom by yourself, you got to move along. All right. And then this is one of my favorites. You'll see a few of these at my house. The bitones. So it'll be a darker petals, lighter sepals, reverse bitones. Obviously, you just swap them. And they come in all kinds of colors, just beautiful. I just like that contrast in image. The bicolors, again, same kind of concept there, only it's going to be two colors versus it could be different ones, or bitones is usually the same type of color. Let's see here. Come on. There we go. The patterns. I'm a hit and a miss with the patterns. I like some of them. So this one over here is a beautiful color pattern. I like it a lot. It shows up, it's distinct. It's got sharp contrast. And then this is an eye, and the eye is just an area where it's darker in the zone of the petal and the sepals.
What kind is the one on the left? Do you know?
So this is a pattern, and let me see, can I see it? This is Mermaid City. So that one's Mermaid City. And that's just a pattern. And you'll have some where you'll have, it's almost like a diamond that kind of repeats up and down. Let's see. And then there's the watermark. The watermark is the one where that looks like it's been bleached out on the edge. So the eye was darker, watermarks are lighter in color. And then contrasting edges, as you can see here, that just goes around. Usually they're yellow, gold, or white, but some people have gotten into, so like this one, I guess is more of a burgundy color here, and it's burgundy edged around the rim. And so you'll have different ones, and some people are working on getting the different colors on the edges. All right. All right. So daylilies make wonderful companion plants. So this was my first garden tour when I joined the regional area. This one here, actually is the house. This is all American Chief. This one right there. This is up for grabs today. But you notice I've got the hydrangea in the back. I got the balloon flowers in front. Works really nicely. I can't remember who these guys are, but you notice you got the cone flowers of different colors. You've got the conifer. There's some liliums that they got going here. And oh, and you got some cannas going on over to the side. And again, one of the ladies in Topeka, she likes a 4-season garden. So she has everything in here. It's not just daylilies. So what we got? We've got some bee balm going. We've got some liliums. She's got cone flowers. I'm trying to think here. The evergreens, obviously, she has everything. Asters, mums that obviously are in bloom in the middle of the summer. And then you also see that we have liatris going over here, a butterfly bush. and this one. So you can mix and match however you want. The upside too is you can actually, let's see, is it on this side? Yeah, there we go. Peonies, phlox, ring bulbs. The wonderful thing about these is as the foliage comes out with the daylilies over time, the ooky brown foliage that you get with your daffodils, your tulips, your crocuses, this hides it. It will eventually hide it. Now, it won't hide it the entire, in that in-between transition, but it will hide it for most of the time. And it's delightful because I just let it rot and compost on its own. I don't do anything to it. This is one of my friends. She's up in Manhattan. As you notice, she's got some bee balm, cone flowers, her walking path. And yeah, this is another one. This backyard, it's nothing. There's a green grass path. So for our no mow month, they wouldn't have to mow until May. The upside is I think their path is maybe 8 feet wide, maybe. Some areas it's more narrow, so they wouldn't be mowing much to begin with. And then here's the other one here. Just again, I have small carbon footprint over here to the right with the coreopsis. And it wasn't necessarily intentional. My coreopsis self-seed all over the place, so I never know which coreopsis I'm getting. But if you notice, I've got kind of a rust center with the yellow edge, and my daylily is more of a burgundy with a yellow throat, which is really nice. And you have them lining the path. And then, like I said, just play with the colors, the textures. It's just like you would in any other garden. You wouldn't just plant all hostas, I hope. Because if you plant all hostas, they're nice, they're leafy, but where's your height? Where's your different textures? You want to have textures to mix with these. And then we're almost done here. If I can get it to forward, perhaps. Come on. It's just being. Sharon's going to come and press the button of power. There she goes. So where can you find daylilies for sale? You can find them in nurseries. And nurseries are a good spot, especially for beginners. The downside is nurseries don't have a lot of selection. You can go online. There's places online that sell them. And again, you just want to kind of be aware with the terms that I had, like the abbreviations, to know what you're getting. If you're starting out, you want to get something that's probably a dormant or semi-evergreen because you're not going to worry about it so much. And if you're getting plants from the south, remember they're from the south, so they may not adjust to our cold temperatures as well. And I prefer buying mine. That's a lie. I prefer buying mine anytime. It doesn't matter. But if you buy them over the spring and summer, and then they'll ship them in the fall because they're not going to ship them while they're actively growing. They're going to ship them when they start to go into dormancy. They'll have all winter to get there or to acclimate to your soil and grow. And then come the following summer, they'll bloom a little bit better. But as the person that shops over the winter and gets them in the spring, it doesn't matter because I'll still put them in the ground and just know that I got to wait a year before my lilies are beautiful. Daylily Club plant sales. Kansas City and Topeka has one each August. The Flint Hills Club sale is May 7th this year. And it's at the downtown farmers market, and it'll be from 7 until I think 11:30ish unless they sell out. The upside with the club sales, I'll have to check on prices, but they're usually, in the past, it's been $5 for a double fan. So $5 for one of these, which is cheaper than your nursery. And you also have a bigger variety. They usually have anywhere between 100, and this depends on the club again. They'll have anywhere between 100 to 150 different varieties, sometimes 200 depending on your club. And then you have the garden club, social plant sales, and then daylily farms. And there are some daylily farms around us. And I'll point out dates because I actually have them because I looked them up. So the Topeka Daylily show, or the Topeka club sale, is going to be August 27th, and that's at the Topeka's Farmers Market. The Kansas City club sale is going to be August 20th, but I'm not 100% sure, but they will have, what's the garden magazine, Sharon, that we have?
The Kansas City Gardener.
The Kansas City Gardener, they always advertise in that, so they'll have the exact date, time, and place. Manhattan Club has there's the 7th. They also have Daylily Days on the June 25th. It's going to coincide with their Master Gardeners tour. And then they'll go through, and they're not selling at that time, but what they're doing is they're offering instructions, tips, any type of questions you may have, they're happy to answer them. And then the other one too is that's actually going to be their Master Gardeners tours. And I know there's at least one Master Gardener that's going to have her garden on. And if you want to see Daylilies out the wazoo, she's got them. I mean, the first time I came up to look at her garden, I pulled up and I was flabbergasted. It was literally, she has a path that's maybe 2 feet wide, and the rest of it's just plants. It's just plants. There's nothing else. You know, the backyard is slightly bigger. I think it's maybe a 6 to 8 foot wide path. And then the Topeka Daylily show should be at Fairlawn Plaza, and I think it's July 2nd. I'll let people know when the meeting's next week, so I'll know better. But in the afternoon, what they'll do is they'll have pretend it's a beautiful greenscape and it has its flowers. And what they do is they'll groom the scape and they'll have it on display. And then they're in competition with all the other blooms and you will get to see some of the most gorgeous blooms there. And then they also have their different displays.
When was that again?
That one is, I think it's July 2nd. And they usually will hand out free plants. Now,
That's the Topeka.
that's the Topeka Club. Yeah. So they will have theirs then. And then just remember, when you're buying from them, you're buying double fans unless they say differently. And you want to soak these bare root plants when they come to your house before you plant them in the ground. So this guy, I got him last week, and what I did and what I've trained everybody in my house to do, Daylilies come in. If I'm not home, open the box, unwrap them. They're usually wrapped up in paper. And what they've done when the hybridizer mailed them off to me, the paper was drenched. I should say drenched, but it was moist. And that's to keep the roots happy. And so over time, over the 3 or 4 days it takes to get from the hybridizer to me, they're going to dry out. So you just put them in a bucket of water, let them soak overnight, and then go plant it out the next day. Or if you need to, you can wait 2 or 3 days. You just want to you want to change the water over time because the water will get a little funky if you let it go more than 3 days. So I think that's it. Is there any questions? Yes. Oh, yes.
Can you repeat the questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. So she asked if the hybridized ones, and these are all hybridized ones, do they multiply on their own? And the answer is yes. Now, some of the hybridized ones are more, I would say, yeah, they're like rabbits, and others are a little bit more like tortoises on their multiplying. So I have some clumps that I'm out there probably every 3 years going, I really like this plant. Why am I always digging it up? And the answer is because it multiplies on or increases is what they call it. It increases at a really fast pace. And other ones are a little bit more slow. Anybody else?
But after Daylily bloom and you've got the stalk, do you take those down, or does it help the plant, or is it just for looks to take off the dead stalks?
So for me, I leave the dead. I'm sorry. So for the dead stalks, she was asking once they're done blooming to go ahead and take them off. I usually let them go and get gray and brown and then pull them off when they're loose. If they're not loose, I just leave them attached because I don't want to damage the plant anymore. But you could theoretically go in and cut them down. Bob, did you have a question?
I've heard the term ditch lily.
Yes, ditch lilies.
Is that a daylily?
It is a daylily. It's one of the originators. So when you're looking at the stuff that's been hybridized, somewhere in there, a ditch lily has its genetic material in there. Yes,
So
ma'am.
what color is the ditch lily?
It's the orange.
Yeah, ditch lilies are orange.
I had someone ask me about black, and in my memory, the ditch lily was the orange. That's the iris.
Yes.
Yeah, so say flags and iris. Yes, Kevin.
You mentioned you're out there dividing. When do you do that?
I divide, normally I will divide them either in the fall, so any time between August, September, when it's cooler out. I'm not a glutton for punishment. I'll wait until the temperatures drop down. I'm not out there in 90-degree heat. I've got other things I could do that's more comfortable in 90-degree heat. And then you can also divide them up in the spring. So within the last month, when the weather's nice and the ground isn't muddy, I can divide them up then too. Anybody else? Anybody online?
Yes, we have, everybody, you can, if you think of another one, just raise your hand, but we do have some from online here, so I'm gonna get closer to the mic. So our, you mentioned hostas, and we do have our hosta lady.
Yes.
What cultivars are good for shade?
There are no good cultivars for shade. That's how you slowly kill it. It will live and it will try for a very long time to thrive. But it's slowly what happens is it'll decrease in size. And that's the indicator that it's got too much shade.
And I put one database up, the daylilies.org, but is there a URL you can provide for this daylily database that you mentioned?
I always just type in Daylily database. And what it'll usually put you to is the Daylily Society's website. And on the sidebar, it will have a Daylily database. Just click that. And then it'll have two searches. It'll have a specific one. So if you're looking for a specific cultivar, or you can do an advanced search. And if you're looking for a particular hybridizer, particular color, particular height. Now, remember, there's 90,000 plus cultivars out there. So if you type in red and leave it at that, be willing to look through 100 and something pages of red, because that's what's going to pop up.
Okay, and what to do about non-blooming older daylilies?
Divide them up. Either they're in the shade and divide them up. They're either in the shade, which means they're not getting enough sun, or they're older. And like I said, the younger ones, as they get their endurance going, they're like teenagers and kids in their early 20s. Hey, how you doing? As you get older, it's like, no, I'm not into you. Go away. Just divide them up. It reinvigorates them, and that should do it.
Okay. And are daylilies just as poisonous as lilies to cats and dogs?
I honestly don't know. I have cats, and my cats have not really eaten them. I'm sure they've been all around them because the yard's full of them. But I haven't had a cat try to eat it, and the people that walk their dogs in my neighborhood, I haven't had any issues with. So I'm assuming, unless, well, it's like any, you can never expect somebody not to eat it. But I would assume yes, but I've never had problems with a cat or a dog having issues with it.
A good way to look up potential poisonous plants is to look up the ASPCA, or the Humane Society, and they have a list of
Plants that will not do so well.
Let's see. The relationship, is there a relationship between bloom size and bloom time? For example, are the minis mainly the EE type?
The minis can be. So generally, it's a general rule of thumb, yes. So the early ones tend to be smaller to the average size, and then your larger ones tend to be later, but that's not generally true, because what'll happen is, like I said, you get mid-season, and that's from probably the end of June to the middle of July. And you'll have everybody going most of the time, except for the ones that have been bred to be later in the season. But I've noticed that the ones later in the season tend to be on your average, so about 5 inches to maybe 7 inches, depending. And a lot of it also will depend upon, like I said, they've been doing this since 1940s. And so you will have some late ones that were hybridized in the 50s and 60s that are only a 5-inch bloom. So it's not necessarily just size.
Okay, and one more question online is, oh no, now we have a couple more. What colors would you recommend for being able to see brightly from a distance?
So mine is, it's not necessarily which colors do you see that from a distance. What color do you like? That's going to be more, for me, that's what I go with. What colors do you like? I like the vibrant. I just came back from a conference at the beginning of April. One of the hybridizers was an artist, And he's like, garish, that's me. Bright, garish, saturated colors. I'm all over that. The delicate, fawn, subtle colors, they're okay. They have their place. They're nice. But I look at them and go, oh, that's pretty. I still like this one over here better.
And when is the best time to fertilize?
Best time to fertilize would probably spring time frame. So before things start going to town, anywhere, depending on how cold tolerant you are, anywhere from the end of March until probably the middle of May would be the best time, just to give them that start. And if you can get slow release nitrogen, that's even better because it gives it that continual feeding the entire time. Yes, ma'am.
So I happen to have a new garden, and so where are some great field trip sites within a day's trip driving that we could see?
So some of the great places to go to see daylilies, and I think it's Loose Park in Kansas City. There's gonna be a botanical garden, and it's not just for the daylilies, but up Ward Mead in Topeka. K-State has a beautiful display garden. They have the stout winter. So each year the association board meets and they pick out the best daylily for that year. It's called a stout winner. So, and that's what All American Chief. So the one that I'm giving away today, he's a stout winner from a few years ago. But they'll have those. And then I'm trying to think, Tulsa has some gardens that's a little bit further away. So let's see, we got Kansas City. We've got the Daylily Gardens here, which is just starting. So they're starting this year, they'll start to mature a little bit better. Next year, they should hopefully be beautiful. And then St. Louis has a really beautiful garden. And that's everything. I mean, that's hostas, daylilies, they've got it all. It's a really great place to go. Yes, Megan.
Generally, daylilies are, yellow, orange, red. Are there any blue, purple, or black daylilies?
All right, so she asked if there's any colors besides yellow, red, and orange. Yes, and right now the hybridizers, there's a lot of hybridizers working on trying to get a true blue. So there's a whole gamut of purples from, they call it an orchid, which is a real pale purple, to a deep, deep purple. And yes, there are blacks. Give me a second here. Africa is a very dark, almost black purple that they have. Yes.
Are there some that are a little bit more tolerant to a wet place, like either a rain garden or someplace that they like dry feet, don't they?
They don't mind having wet feet for a little bit. So if you're doing a rain garden, they're going to be on the outer edge. So the edge that dries out first, that would be their better spot for them. Yes, Kevin.
Is there a pH that they like to be in?
So pH. So the pH they like is around neutral, but they'll tolerate a little bit of both ends. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned you can get them online. Have
Yes.
you had luck with online
Absolutely.
purchases of good quality?
Yes, absolutely.
Any you probably can't recommend.
Not off the top of my head but I will try to, maybe I'll create a list that I can give to Sharon. And then Sharon, I don't know if there's a place that you can post it. And it's not an all-inclusive list. It's just ones that I've dealt with that I know will do well. Okay.
I also get catalogs, and there is a catalog that is dedicated to just daylilies.
Yes. So say, do you know which catalog you're getting?
I don't remember right now.
Okay.
It may be Brex, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the ones that tend to do in bulbs, Brex, Van Buren, and the other ones, they'll do other things. I will be honest with those. I mean, they have good daylilies, but I look at their selection, I just go, I can get better than that. And I've become a snob. I really have. I've become a snob. Part of that is because I've become a garden judge. So I went through the classes and everything. And so now when I go through a garden, and I know garden judge sounds really presumptuous. I'm not judging your garden. I'm judging your plants. So it's like, is the foliage healthy? Is it full? Is it vibrant? Is it a deep color? Are the blooms, are they doing really good, or are they kind of sad and look like there's something wrong with them? You know, that's what I'm judging. I'm not judging how the garden's laid out or anything else. I'm judging the plant itself.
It's, you're not judging, I'm not judging you, I'm judging your children.
That is true. I am absolutely judging your children. And one of the things that I do when I'm judging is I make sure that I am not anywhere near the hybridizer, because I don't want that hybridizer to be upset with me when I go, ooh, yeah, no, that could use a little TLC there. One of the things that we're judging now, and so on this scape, I don't know if you can tell, there's only 2 branches. One of the things some of the hybridizers are working on is getting 3 to 4 way branching so that you have more buds and a higher bud, they call it a higher bud count, and your bloom time lasts a little bit longer, and your flowers aren't all clustered here. They're spread out and it looks beautiful versus that little, I got this little stick with flowers on it.
Ditch lily.
Yeah, ditch lily. Yes, ma'am.
Laura, can you tell everybody about the garden here at the demo gardens with the lilies in it and what you're
Yes.
trying to accomplish there?
So the garden, so at the fairgrounds demo garden, there's about, I'm sorry, Teresa, I've expanded into your section of the irises, and I apologize. Just gonna happen. I'm sorry. So we have 3 different sections. Well, 4. I have one section that's dedicated to the Huntington Award daylilies. And those are the daylilies that qualified for the stout. So the blue ribbon, you know, the king of king daylilies. Well, this is the one where this daylily was really spectacular, but it didn't win the stout award. But the board of directors felt like it should have been, you know, and you know, it was in the contenders, but this was like 2nd place. So stout, Lennington, and that sounds really horrible. And Lennington is actually a hybridizer, was a hybridizer from the Kansas City area. He was one of the first ones that started up the Daylily Club for our area. But so you'll have the Lennington Awards, and I don't have them all because some of them are hard to find. And then I've got just the regular daylilies. There's a section, it's just the different daylilies from different areas. We've got the walk up by the front door, again, daylilies, because I like them. Too bad people are just going to have to walk by them and see them. And then over by the iris bed, I'm trying to create, I tried to create Kansas only hybridizers, but I don't know all the hybridizers to ask them for a daylily. So it's a region 11, and region 11 is Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. But if you go out there, there's at least one hybridizer from Manhattan, Kansas that has something out there, one from Topeka. We have a gentleman out here in Eudora that hybridizes. And again, like I said, I'm just trying to slowly accumulate the different hybridizers from our local area. Local being a generous territory.
Okay, any further questions here? There are no more questions online. I'll make a quick check to see if there's anybody that would like to shout out a question from our Zoom audience. I have to go back and forth with the audio, but I'm gonna allow right now. You can go ahead and try asking questions. After that, nobody wants to ask a question.
Because I judge their children. It's okay.
So,
So Laura, if we're fortunate enough to get one of the ones in front and we plant it in the next week or so, should we expect anything this year or should it be next year?
You will get something this year. It just won't be as much this year as it will be next year. The liliums, because I usually transplant them in the fall, I have no idea. I've been told I need to hybridize and I was like, absolutely not. I'm working on propagating liliums. It takes up enough space. I don't want to give up any more space for seedlings for daylilies. I only have, apparently I'm told I have to have grass in my yard. I'm not too sure why we have to have grass, but we need grass. Okay. Is that it?
yes, I believe that is all the questions. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. And yeah, if you come over here, maybe this will follow us there.
it goes.
Thank you all for attending. Next month, May 21st is our next program on designing outdoor spaces with Leslie Wren, a K-State landscape architect. So please feel free to join us. This program has been recorded and I will have it up on our YouTube site in the next couple days. I've put that link in the chat. So grab it now and subscribe and you'll get a notice when that is ready. So thank you all and have a great day.
All right, so Sharon. Unless you get to pull, unless you're one. All right, nope, that's fine.